Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that lovely hymn that you sang. Taco used to like that. Yeah, that's a nice song. So this morning, I will be talking about the path of self-surrender, and there's a little story behind this talk. Many years ago, I started having some correspondence, email correspondence, with a young devotee. He was a teenager at that time, and for some reason he would ask questions and I would answer, and he gave me a whole list of questions in one of his emails that was so interesting that I said to him, I'll make a whole talk out of this rather than try to just answer it. And then, so that was the history behind this. So I wanted to give this again. I gave it must be 20 years ago. And then I was thinking, for me, it'll be interesting to see if I give the same answers now that I gave then, or if maybe somehow I learned something in the past 20 years. Possible. No, it's not possible. Anyway, you can pretend that it's possible. So let me start out with then reading the list of the questions that he gave, and then I'll go through them one by one. What does it really mean to offer the self or the little I? That was the first one. How can we successfully offer the self? How can we know whether we have truly offered ourselves? And how can we know if the offering has been accepted? Then, what is the nature of the self that has been offered? Is there still separation between oneself and the chosen ideal, or oneness? Then, if there is oneness, does the form of the chosen ideal melt into the formless? You'll see all very good questions. Then, what are the fruits of successfully offering oneself to God? Be brilliant. This is a young devotee, but I was so impressed with all of these questions. Then, if we truly offer the self and it is accepted, does that represent reaching the final goal? So, all very, very important questions. Everything ties in, of course, to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. This one of the great themes that we find in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This path of self-surrender is something that ultimately we all have to tread. No matter what path we start out with. We start out with great enthusiasm. We start out with this idea of tremendous self-effort. Some point comes where we kind of cross a line, and we start to feel that everything depends on grace, everything depends on self-surrender. This will come in the life of almost all of us, whether we follow the path of devotion or the path of knowledge. Following the path of knowledge also, a time will come when we'll feel that, yes, we have to let go of everything. And whatever that reality is, that will manifest itself to us. One of the most important teachings of Gita is Gita. If we read Gita, we see the entire text, the scripture, is teaching dharma, performance of duty. Be up and doing. Fight in the battle of life. Then we get to the end. And everything is sharanagati. Everything, renounce everything. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam. So just give up all of this. I have to do this. I'm not allowed to do that. All of that, and take refuge, take shelter with me. Then I'll take care of everything for you. So Gita is a perfect example how we start with this tremendous idea of self-effort, and we end with this idea of sharanagati, of self-surrender. So the first question is, what exactly do we mean? What is this self-surrender? We have two very closely related concepts. Both are very important concepts. The first, as I've been saying, sharanagati, and the other, atma samarpana. Atma samarpana. So sharanagati, sharana means some safe haven, some place of refuge. Agati means that we seek that. We try to find this place of shelter, of refuge, where we feel safe, some safe haven. Sharanagati. This Atma Samarpana means that we offer our whole being. We offer the self. Everything that we have, we offer. We have this sankalpa at the end of the home and other pujas, where we do this purnahuti, this offering, everything that we have, this complete offering, into this fire of knowledge, or the fire of God. So this sharanagati, finding this place, this deep feeling that we have that now we're being upheld. We're lying in the lap of Mother. We don't have to do anything. And this Atma Samarpanam is the price that we pay for this sharanagati. That if we want to really be able to reach that point of self-surrender, then we have to somehow give up this ego sense. Yeah, somebody check your phone, please. Yeah. So, as I say, these are a devotional attitude that we want to feel that we're lying in the lap of Mother, that everything will be taken care of. And philosophical attitude also, that we offer the lower self into the higher self, the Atma Samarpanam. That we offer this little ego and all of the false identifications that we have, the sense of I that we offer that into this divine presence that is our real nature, offer the Jivatman into the Paramatman, if you want to think of it in those terms. So everything boils down to somehow, whatever path that we're following, to transcend this ego, and not just this philosophical ego of the sense of I that we have, but also pride. And there's a lot of this is the pride of self-effort, that we can do everything on our own, that we have that inner strength. At some point we have to realize that grace will be necessary. So the idea of grace, of course, comes in with all of this. So the self-surrender is basically an attitude which will gradually gain strength. In the beginning, we should have some feeling that, no, I can do everything. That I can take everything in my hands, that through my spiritual practice, that I'll have that inner strength. We should have that feeling, and it's a good thing and it's a helpful thing. But gradually, as we go along, that this idea of having to take shelter, this idea that now I realize that I'm a wave in this whole ocean, that the ocean will have to support me in everything, that this starts to permeate all of our thoughts and all of our actions, and transforms ourselves. We transform our very being that way until we find there's no separation between that which we're taking shelter in and this little ego. The little wave or the river will go back into the ocean somehow, find its home back there, find its refuge back there. So partly it's a recognition of our own limitations. We have our physical limitations. How long can we sit for meditation? We have health limitations. Mind, of course, is the greatest barrier. We all know that this mind is restless, that no matter how hard we try to control it, that we have difficulty with that. Everybody understands all of that. It's also a recognition of the inability of the intellect to comprehend the infinite. So Sri Ramakrishna, he tells us this over and over again. We don't listen to him. This is the problem, that we're still trying to figure out, well, how does the one become the many? We have all these philosophical questions when he so clearly tells us that this little mind will not be able to comprehend the infinite, these big questions. He tells us over and over again. We still make an attempt, which is okay, because we want to use our brains a little bit. But at some point, we realize that he says, yes, it's like taking a container that will hold 1 quart of water and trying to pour 5 quarts into it. At some point, we come to that realization. All of these lead to this feeling of not exactly helplessness, but we know our limitations that way. And this higher understanding of things will come when we give up this idea that we can understand everything through the intellect. And we know that there's a higher way of realizing truth, going beyond this ordinary mind of ours, and going into the heart center and having some direct type of realization. All of this because we're transcending this ego sense. Both, as I say, both this false identification and also this pride. This pride that comes that, yes, I'm a spiritual seeker, I can sit for hours in meditation, I can do this, I can do that. At some point we realize that, yes, it's very, very little that we can do, and whatever we do in our spiritual practice is very little, a very small price to pay for what we hope to achieve in spiritual life. So then the question is, then how do we do this? How do we practice this? If we want to take this idea of Sharanagati as a spiritual path, then how do we go about doing it? Not in a superficial way, but a very authentic type of way, so that we really feel. It's not just mouthing the words. We really feel that we can practice this idea and do it in such a way that some transformation can take place within us. And we can really feel somehow that we're instruments in the hand of God. See, Thakur, we see both things. We see the tremendous effort that he took for realization and how he felt that everything was in Mother's hands. So how can we learn to do all of this? Problem is that in spiritual life, we run up against these different paradoxes. That we know that we want to reach the point of letting go. We want to reach the point of taking shelter, Sharanagati, but we have to do it through self-effort. And we may find that self-effort is something that is contrary to taking shelter, self-surrender, but at the same time, we can't reach the point of self-surrender unless we go through this long, arduous path of self-effort. So these two things are very, very closely related, that without asserting the self, we can't transcend the self. So this is the paradox in spiritual life. But it's not a paradox is not a contradiction. Paradox is something that looks from the outside to be a contradiction, but if we go through the whole thing, we see that there's a tremendous logic behind the whole thing. So the Gita tells us we don't reach the state of perfect actionlessness, naiskarmya, by giving up action. We have to do it through action. And then a point will come where we can do it after that. So we won't reach this state of self-surrender without asserting the self, utilizing this natural feeling of agency, this idea that I am the doer of action. And this is necessary for us to do our spiritual practice. And yet, as Sri Ramakrishna tells us over and over again, that the highest wisdom comes when we feel I'm not the agent of action. So it's very, very difficult. I often think that will there ever come a time when we don't feel that we're the ones who's performing action? If we have that doubt, and I have that doubt, then when Thakur says it's korta, that we have to feel that I'm not, then take it in the sense that I'm not the big boss of everything, with some type of humility, because Thakur will say this ego doesn't leave us very easily. So this sense of I, anyhow, we'll get to that. That'll have to be transformed a little bit. But this relationship between self-effort and surrender is very nicely put in the parable of the bird on the mast of the ship. We know this. We've heard this so many times, but there's elements to this that sometimes we forget. That the bird is feeling tired, it lands on the mast of a ship, the ship is anchored on shore, and the bird falls asleep. By the time the bird awakens, the ship is out to sea so far that the bird doesn't know which direction to fly to get back to land. So we know the story. The bird flies as far as it can in one direction and realizes that it better head back to the boat. It doesn't see any land. Otherwise, it'll become so tired it'll fall and drown. So it flies back to the mast, waits a while, flies in the other direction, in all four directions. And then finally says, now nothing left to do but take shelter with the ship. Wherever the ship will take me, I'll be content. There's nothing else that I can do. Now, what do we take from this story? Is it that the bird has to flap its wings and realize that all its effort is futile? Or is that absolutely necessary in order to be able to take shelter with the ship? See, the bird can't do it in the beginning. The bird can't simply just say, okay, now I'm the boat. Wherever the boat goes, I'll go. I'll be happy that way. Because the bird still has a desire to get back to the land. So this self-effort is absolutely necessary in order to give up this self-effort at some point. And the transformation takes place through the self-effort. So this flapping of the wings is not just a waste of time, or it's not just to make it realize that it'll never find land, that through that the bird is gaining strength and enabled to reach that point where the Sharanagati becomes natural. It's not just that, well, I failed, there's nothing that I can do. No, this feeling that, and now I realize that this is where I should have been in the very beginning, to take shelter with the ship. So what does this tell us about our spiritual practice? Is it just meant to frustrate us? Is it just meant to make us feel that we'll never succeed without some type of grace or something like that? It's meant to transform us. It's meant to give us a little sense of humility. It's meant to enable us to get to that point where we can practice this self-surrender. So there's real value, tremendous value to this sadhana that we do, even if it's based on this idea, I am the doer. That's fine. This is a vidyamaya. This is a good sense of I, that I'm the one trying to realize God. Through that, we get this purification of heart. We get this elimination of selfishness, the facing of the ego, and finally, this need, we feel this need for grace, that we have to be lifted up somehow, that we won't do everything simply through our own type of effort. All of these stages are necessary. See, we have to learn to crawl before we walk. You know, that those children who don't crawl and directly walk, some stage of development doesn't work out for them. There's sometimes they say autism, they can trace it back to that. Those children who miss that step of crawling. Now, crawling doesn't really help us to walk. It's a different type of process. But without it, we can't get to that other stage. So even if we say, where's the direct connection between all of this self-effort and this self-surrender, it's there. Is there one precedes the other? We have to go through it. Thakur says, you play this board game, you can't get to the end, you have to go through every space. And most of it is sadhana. At the very end, we experience this type of grace. So self-effort should ripen gradually and mature into self-surrender. It's not simply something that we say after we fail at spiritual life, that we simply say, no, I can't do it. And when do we decide, at what point do we decide to let go of our spiritual practice and try to just practice self-surrender? We don't decide. We have to continue with our spiritual practice until Mother herself will say, now you've done enough. This is Thakur's example of the daughter-in-law who becomes pregnant. Every month after month, her duties become a little less. The mother-in-law says, and now you don't have to do anything, just give birth to the child. And after that, play with the child. So these things will fall off naturally. This distinction between Vaidhi Bhakti and Anuraga, that or spiritual practice, and then the spontaneous divine love of God, we don't decide. We reach a point where we're incapable of doing ordinary spiritual practice because the mind is filled with God all the time. So this is something that we hope and pray will reach this stage, but we don't give up our spiritual practice because that will ripen into this self-surrender. So Thakur talks about these two specific stages, Vaidhi Bhakti, and he gives different terms, Anuraga, this Raga Anurag, or Raga Bhakti, Anuraga, that this spontaneous love of God. And this Vaidhi Bhakti means we have a certain routine that we follow. There are certain prescriptions. That means whatever the Guru tells us to do in our spiritual life. It may involve some worship, some japa, some meditation, some prayer, some bhajans, all different types of things. But we do this with great regularity, with great dedication and great devotion. This is Vaidhi Bhakti, and it will gradually lead to the point where the mind is so filled with God that we don't have to bother about keeping to that strict type of routine. In fact, it becomes almost impossible. You see, for Sri Ramakrishna, even for him to use japamala and do that, he couldn't do it. He tried one time. The Howrah had his beads. He said, well, let me see. Then he said, oh, I can do a little with my left hand. But it just symbolically, symbolically, it was a way of saying that he had gone beyond that. Sarva dharman parityajya. This, we sometimes wonder in Gita, what does it mean to give up? Well, dharma and adharma. This is the point where even these spiritual practices or ritualistic things that we do, we've gone beyond them. So nothing we have to do, nothing that we're prohibited from doing. We just live like the dried leaf in the wind. We let the wind take us wherever it does, and we get some sense of joy and some sense of santosha, that we're content. We're content with everything. So we have our spiritual practices. The most important is meditation. The most frustrating is meditation. This is something that everybody experiences. So it has both a positive and a negative value. This frustration in meditation also will lead to this sharanagati. That at some point, we do whatever we can, abhyasa yoga. We do whatever we can to learn how to focus the mind a little bit. But through years and years of meditation, we come to the point where we realize that we can't do it on our own. We can't do it with this ordinary mind. To picture the image of our Ishta Devata as if living in front of us, face to face, this ordinary mind cannot do it. The mind has to be raised to a different level. And this raising to a different level is also grace. So the positive aspect is, of course, inner transformation is taking place. Negative aspect, which is also positive, is that we realize that this self-effort is not enough. So that in order to control the mind, there has to be some higher force that will help us there. So there's again, this paradox. There's an inherent contradiction in this mind trying to control itself. It's like the inmates running the insane asylum, or the fox looking after the chicken coop. That because this mind itself will play tricks on us. The mind that's trying to control the mind will find reasons not to bother with it and everything. But this is the whole point, that we have to try. And the more that we try, the more two things happen. Transformation takes place. There's no doubt about that. Devotion, bhakti, all of these things take place. And also this feeling that grace is necessary. So that this little I receives a little blow and realizes that it can't do everything on its own. So this meditation is one of the most important practices that we have in order to reach this sharanagati. Even greater than meditation probably is prayer. Prayer is based on the fact that there's some higher power, however we understand it. For some is a very clear conception of a personal God. For others, some indwelling presence of the divine. Different ways of understanding this, but it's based on this belief that there's something bigger than us, something greater than us that can be accessed, that we have a connection with, that can pull us up. This idea that this power is there, that wants to grab hold of us. I always like this idea that this Brahman is like this big reservoir, and we're like the little field, and this water is just waiting to come into the field, and this little ego is the barrier there, the floodgate that we have to get rid of. We have to pull it out, and then it'll flood into us. So this feeling that that divine presence is there, if we can only allow ourselves, remove the stump of the ego, allow ourselves that this will, so we can do this through prayer. This is one of the great spiritual practices that we have. And it's a way of expressing the longing of the heart. We express things in words, and it has a different meaning to us. This is why prayer is easier and more effective than meditation in many cases, if we're very sincere with our prayer. Thakur talks about prayer all of the time. We have to pray with a yearning heart, with tears on our eyes, that for help. Sometimes we want to feel we can do everything. Sometimes we want to feel we're helpless children. These are maybe two different types of spiritual seekers, but still, for everybody at some point, we have to recognize that we need this higher power to help us. So this was Sri Ramakrishna's prayer, that Mother, reveal yourself to me. I am a helpless child, what can I do? And Holy Mother, she had her own very beautiful type of prayer. She used to pray, Mother, make my will one with your will. We always talk about this idea that I do as you make me do, Mother. Is it true that I can say that? I do as you make me do. So even for Holy Mother, she recognized that through grace, we can reach the point where what we do is in step with the divine, however we understand that. So that was Holy Mother's prayer. So then, third thing, so we have prayer, we have meditation and prayer. These are all means to reaching the Sharanagati. Third thing is the practice of karma yoga. And there are all different types, ways of practicing karma yoga. The Jnani has a way of practicing, the Bhakta has a different way of practicing, the Raja Yogi has a different way of practicing. For the devotee, everything is an offering to God. For the philosopher, is I am the witness, I'm not the actor, I'm not the agent of all of this, I'm simply watching everything. The Raja Yogi wants to do everything with perfect concentration and just be the observer of everything. So this also leads to this feeling that I'm not this small I. If we want to be bhaktas, this I has to be transformed into this I of the devotee, child, or the servant of God. If we want to be jnanis, this I has to remain as the witness. Remain as the witness. These are different attitudes and different moods. Don't try to see this one contradict the other. And those who are practicing Raja Yoga, they want to focus on doing everything perfectly with tremendous concentration. All three of these are ways of transcending this ordinary thick type of ego that we have, unripe type of ego that we have, to transcend it or to ripen it. So they all have their different attitudes. For the karma yogi can take the servant attitude. This is a very beautiful attitude. Now what happens to the ego of someone who feels, dasoham, I am the servant? This ego becomes a very strong ego because the servant feels, I can do everything. I can do everything, Hanuman. I can do everything for Rama. It's very strong. But it kills that other small ego, which is the selfish ego. This is the beauty in that. The ego of the child, this, of course, we can understand more easily fits in with this Sharanagati. But even the ego of the servant of God, of Hanuman, that there was no ego in him that had any selfish desire, self-motive, or anything like that. Everything was for Rama. So all of these different attitudes will help to transcend this lower sense of I. The looking upon God as mother and ourselves as a child. This, of course, from the very beginning, we're adopting a type of ego, which is a helpless ego. Like the kitten. The kitten doesn't make any effort to do anything. The kitten's in trouble, it just says mew, 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 and the mother comes and takes it. Wherever the mother puts it, it's happy. We have that beautiful song, Ma'achen or Amiachi, Bhavna Kiachan. If mother exists, then I exist. There's nothing else to worry about. That there's no anxiety, no thought about what will happen to me, anything like that. Because I have a mother. My mother is watching over me. She'll do whatever is necessary for me. So this attitude leads directly to this Sharanagati. So we start to see that there are certain fruits that come from this. See, in spiritual life, it's not that we have a goal and we either reach that goal or we don't reach it. The more we practice it, the more transformation takes place. So we find here, as we get closer to perfecting ourselves in this Sharanagati, then some contentment will come, acceptance, reliance, some dispassion, some renunciation. We won't care for other things. We'll be easily content. Whatever comes, we'll say is the will of the divine. We won't question things. This is why spiritual practice not only can take us to some higher realization, but can make us happy in life. It can bring some joy to life. It can remove the anxiety and frustration in life. That we learn to accept things. We learn to feel there's some divine will behind things. So these things are really tremendously important, that we see everything as the will of God. We have the beautiful story, the will of Rama, that great devotee, that whether he's sitting there enjoying himself in the evening, the will of Rama, whether the thieves come and drag him along, the will of Rama, whether he gets caught by the police, will of Rama, when he gets released, the will of Rama. He had the same calmness of mind he had throughout the whole thing. He didn't panic or anything when the police caught him, and ultimately when he was released, it was okay. That's also the will of Rama. So if we can do this as a practice, that's why I wanted to talk to this as the path of self-surrender. We do this as a spiritual practice. Automatically, it'll bring this type of freedom from anxiety, some type of contentment in life, contentment with whatever comes. This raga dvesha is a terrible bondage. We want good things to come. We want to avoid bad things. If we can learn to accept everything, then we're free from that. Then we don't have to bother. Oh, I didn't want that to happen. This happened. Why can't I get what I want? That's a terrible burden on the mind to always be thinking that how to avoid things we don't like and how to get things that we do like. So some dispassion comes from this, vairagya. This is the way that this vairagya can come effortlessly. That the more the mind goes in that direction, automatically we're relying on God, thinking of God, and we don't care so much for things of the world. We're content with something higher. So this vairagya will come, and again, when vairagya comes, it brings tremendous peace to the mind. The opposite of vairagya is always seeking enjoyment and pleasure. And there's no end to it. And we get satiated with it. And it, again, brings frustration and other things. So this dispassion from the world and this remembering God, longing for God, taking refuge with God, feeling God is our ultimate shelter, these things, again, go hand in hand. And this ultimate renunciation, vairagya, is again of the ego. This desire to seek name and fame and enjoyment and recognition, to become wealthy people, to become people of power. All of these things will automatically recede. The more this desire comes for something higher in life. Now, how can we know whether we've really offered ourselves and whether or not that offering has been accepted? We observe the mind. If we find that we're still fighting against everything, if we find that we're not content with things, then we haven't really done it. We have to look at the fruits of all of this. We may claim that we've offered everything to God, and at the same time that we're holding on to everything. We won't want to let go of anything. So self-examination, that we have to examine what our motive is, what our beliefs are, what our reaction is to results, what things that happen. Are we really able to just accept the results of things, good or bad? If we sit in a doctor's office, we may get a result that everything is fine, negative. We may get some positive result. Are we able to observe the mind and see that whatever happens is the will of God? That's all. I'll accept it. Doesn't matter. So there'll be a test. We'll observe the way the mind reacts to all of these things. And our motives have to be free from selfishness. They have to be devoid of all desire just for our own personal pleasure and gain. And the things that we do should be based on dharma. What is the proper thing to do, the right thing to do? See, if we get rid of this selfish motive, then what is our motive? How do we decide what to do and what not to do? There has to be some dharma, some sense. This is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. So based on what will be best for, well, of course, there are different ways of looking at it. Some say what is the best thing for the largest number of people, but anyhow, what is the right thing to do? And last one is, are we acting in accordance with the will of God? This is the impossible one. This is the impossible one. That we don't know what is this will of God, but we can only feel that if, say in the case of, we look at Sri Ramakrishna, our Holy Mother, if we could consult them and ask them, what do you think we should do? How should we behave? Or are we acting in accordance with the answer that we think we would get from them? If we want to look at it from that point of view. Otherwise, we don't know. It is tremendous arrogance to say that I'm acting in accordance with the will of God. We have no idea what that is. If we eliminate this ego, eliminate this selfish motive, and if we feel that we're being pulled in a certain direction and acting according to Dharma, this is almost the best that we can do. That otherwise it's just foolishness and arrogance and everything to say that I'm acting in accordance with the divine will. If we have that perfect purity and that perfect unselfishness, this is the best that we can do. Otherwise, this idea of the will of God has been one of the worst things that we see in the history of the world. That how nations conquer other nations with this idea that manifests destiny and even to make slaves of people, that somehow there's some divine justification for these things. This is something that is almost unthinkable, how these atrocities get attributed to the will of God. So we have to be very careful with all of that. But still, this idea of the divine will should be there with regard to the results of our actions. See, I can't say whatever I do is the will of God, but I can say whatever comes as a result is the will of God. Not that I know, but just as a spiritual attitude, so that I accept everything. I do everything to the best of my ability, with a very pure type of motive. If it's successful, the will of God. Not successful, it wasn't meant to be. That's all. So we can try to practice it that way. We have the life of Girish Ghosh. That is a wonderful story of Thakur telling him that, give me your power of attorney, that Girish didn't understand in the beginning what it really meant. It really meant surrendering everything, giving up this little I, the ego sense. So for Girish, this was best possible type of spiritual advice that he could get. One time he said to Sri Ramakrishna that I have to go to the theater now. So Thakur said, what is this? Why do you say, I will do it? Suppose you cannot do it. What then? You should say, I shall do it if God so wills. Then Girish, he used to tell the others, gradually I started to understand what it means to renounce this little I and to give God the power of attorney. So he said, somebody asked him once, have you fully understood the meaning of Thakur's words? And Girish said, much remains to be understood even now, that I know then that so much lay hidden in the simple giving of the power of attorney. I now find that at some time there's an end to spiritual practice, japa, meditation, etc., but there is no end to the work of a person who is given the power of attorney. For he has to watch every step and every breath to know whether he does so depending on him and his power or this wretched I. So this is very beautiful. We have a section in chapter 12, this famous section in Gita on Bhakti Yoga. It exactly mirrors this incident with Girish. Thakur first tells you, do this. Try to fix your mind to God. He said, I can't do it. And one after another. And then finally he says, then renounce everything. Then do everything as an offering. And then at the end we have this Tyaga. It says, Tyaga, renouncing this little I means taking shelter. Tyaga shantiranantaram. Immediately peace will come. Immediately peace will come. So exactly the same thing. It's very interesting. Well, if you can't do this, then do that. So Gita says, no, I can't do that. If you can't do that, then do the next thing. No, I can't do that. Then at least remember God in the morning, I can't do that. Then finally he says, then do everything as an offering. Then give up everything and let go, give everything as an offering. That will be the highest. The one that was the last of the options becomes the highest and the best. It's a very interesting little section. Now, how can we know if we've truly offered the self? Of course, we can never know in any absolute way, but if we can do this, then we'll feel some change within. We'll feel some change. The other question, how do we know that the offering has been accepted? Now, this I remember writing back to him, there's no question. Where will it go? Where will this little I go? Where will the wave go if it doesn't go into the ocean? Huh? There's no question about that. If we can renounce this little I, it has to go back to the source. So that we should feel that this lower self is nothing but the higher self. It'll have to go back to that the child becomes one with the mother. That this is something that we should be able to accept unconditionally. When this unripe ego, I, is burnt in this fire of renunciation, then it'll disappear and it'll reappear as this ripe ego. So we should have that faith. Not that practicing Sharanagati means that we'll get everything that we want. It doesn't mean that. But that we're offering this little self into this higher self. The little wave is going back to this ocean of Satchit Ananda. So this is a very nice way of trying to understand that we're offering into that ultimate reality. It has to be accepted. It's part of that reality. We're going back to the source. We're offering it back into the source. Then he asked the question, what is the nature of the self that has been offered? Is there still separation between oneself and the chosen ideal, or is there oneness? This, of course, goes back to our understanding whether we're real jnanis. This lower self, it'll emerge forever into the higher self. The devotee, some separation can remain. That we can still remain as the servant of God. Ultimately, some feeling of oneness will be there, but still remain as a child of God or the servant of God. So it'll depend a little bit on our understanding of things, how we look upon this relationship. Or what we like for Sri Ramakrishna was a question of preference. He liked to have a relationship. He liked to feel a little distinction. He wanted to feel, see, the real bhakta and the real karma yogi wants to be able to feel that, yes, I want to do everything as an offering. There has to be some sense of I, some sense of separation, but a very ripe I, the I of the devotee, that even in the final state, that little distinction will be there. See, for Sri Ramakrishna, he prayed, Mother, don't let me get lost in this Brahmajnana. Let me enjoy your Leela. Let there be a little distinction. Let the child play with the mother. So that can also be there in that final stage, or can be the complete offering of the self to the higher self, and that merging in that highest nirvikalpa samadhi, a very rare type of thing. Then, we've seen most of this. What are the results of successfully offering oneself to God? Immediately, peace of mind. We see that. Peace of mind, contentment, absence of anxiety, absence of longing, clinging to the results. And then a feeling of joy. If we can feel that this life is being led as an offering, we're leading this life solely for the sake of giving everything, not taking anything, dedicating this life, it'll be a very joyful type of life. This is something that I think everyone experiences, people who really do this, to feel that life is dedicated to something higher, to live life according to an ideal, that automatically there's some sense that I'm not wasting this life, some sense of contentment, and the sense that we're doing what we're meant to do in this lifetime. So this is very important, to live according to some type of higher type of ideal, and to live this life, to dedicate this life. Swamiji just wanted a handful of people willing to dedicate their whole life, surrender the whole life to serving the poor, seeing God in the poor and other things, but really to lead this type of spiritual life. Even to the point where don't worry about your mukti or anything like that. Don't worry about all of that. Those who run after mukti will go to hell, he says in one place. Yeah. Take it as a great goal in life to be able to sacrifice one's life for the sake of others. So, this feeling of dedication and joy, and this release, tremendous feeling of release. Swami Turiyananda, he gives a beautiful illustration. He says, if you get a large pitcher of water and you put it on your head, how much weight you feel on the neck. But if you're underwater and you have the same amount of water above your head, you don't feel any weight. The whole ocean is holding it, sustaining it. You don't have to do it yourself. So we transfer our whole burden onto God, in essence. So these are some of the tremendous results that we get from this type of spiritual practice. So we feel God will carry our burden. The weight of life will be somehow lifted from us. Then the final question, has one reached the goal when the self is truly offered to God? Now, some will say that this is the final step, this will lead to God realization, and that's the final goal of life. There are certain types of devotees who will say yes, that when we reach that point of perfect self-abnegation, where we become instruments in the hand of God, when we live only for the sake of others, that this is all that we want in life. There will be people like that. Swamiji wanted a handful of people like that. So for the devotee to reach this point of perfect self-abnegation, perfect dedication, perfect offering, and feeling the heart filled with love, this is a parama purushartha for them. This is higher than even mukti, liberation, to reach that point where whole life is led as an offering. So these are some of the answers that I gave at that time. I find that I haven't changed very much. This was more, I haven't learned anything, you could say. This is more or less everything that I answered at that time. But I was so happy when I received all of these questions, and I thought it would be nice to share these things. So, okay. let us take a few minutes. It's nice to just think a little bit about some of the ideas that we discuss and see how applicable they may be in our own life. So we'll sit for a few minutes.